few key points that really jumped out to me when I was reading it earlier this week. To set some context, because it doesn't really say in the reading, this is Solomon praying a dedicatory prayer for the temple, first temple in Jerusalem. And so this is part of the dedicatory prayer that we hear this morning. And in this dedicatory prayer, he says a few things that are really important for us today. First, he mentions that this is an altar to God, a God who is keeping covenant and steadfast love for God's people. That's an important thing. And to explain to you why that's an important thing, I want to give you a very brief history of covenants in the Bible. God creates humans and says, I love you. I want you to love me back. We said, okay. Adam and Eve ate fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Didn't really work out. Things got progressively worse. Eventually God said, I'm restarting the whole thing. Flood. I saved Noah and Noah's family after the flood, making a covenant with you. I'm making a covenant that I will never again flood the earth, and the sign is my rainbow in the sky. If you just do these few things, the covenant will remain intact. The people said, that sounds great. We'll build an altar right here. We'll worship the Lord. Everything was great until it wasn't. Things started going south again. And God said, okay, well, maybe I need to make a new covenant with you. And they said, okay, new covenant, great. And then it wasn't great. And we broke our end of the bargain again. And then God said, well, let me make another new covenant with you. And you see where this is going. This eventually ended when God sent Jesus to be the new covenant for us. A covenant based in a steadfast love so great, so unimaginable in its scope, that not even death could be something that could separate us from that love. There's no longer a way that we can break the covenant. So that's the covenant that God is keeping with us now. The second thing that jumped out at me is that in this dedicatory prayer, we don't hear a whole lot about the people who are already in Israel. At least not in the reading here this morning. Instead, it talks about the foreigners, the people who are not yet us. And it says that the foreigners are an important part of us. Because as it turns out, our God's kind of awesome. Our God is so great, so amazing, that other people are going to hear about God. And they're going to want to be a part of it. They're going to hear about this covenant, this love. And it's going to make so much sense that they can't help but want to be part of it too. And so in this dedicatory prayer for the temple, Solomon is saying that a large function of the temple is to be a place for people to come who are not yet part of our group. We're to always be welcoming new people. And I think that's really important, especially today, because today we're going to see how this is how both of those things are lived out in the life of a parish. Because there's a baptism today. And in baptism, we welcome someone into the household of God. But in the midst of welcoming someone, we also renew a baptismal covenant. We're reminded of what we say we are going to do as followers of Jesus. And that's an amazing thing. And today is especially unique because Hannah, who's going to be baptized in just a few moments, was actually supposed to be baptized 2 weeks ago with her sister. But unfortunately, she was feeling sick that day and couldn't make it. And so this is a rescheduled baptism. And so, because she was sick, she could have just said, oh, well, it's not for me. I don't want to do it anymore. But she decided she still wanted to be baptized. And so in a few moments, we're going to welcome her to the household of God. But if you look at where she's sitting, she's not by herself. Because we're not welcoming just her. We're welcoming her friends, her family, her grandparents, her godparents. You'll find in the church that whenever we welcome one person, we're rarely just welcoming one person. We're welcoming a community, a family. That's what we're always welcoming into the church. And that's such an important thing for us. And we welcome her by renewing a baptismal covenant that says it's about love. We will renew our vow to seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving our neighbor as ourselves. And then we realize that when we're welcoming Hannah, when we're welcoming Hannah's family, we're welcoming Christ into our midst again. Because each and every person we meet is God's child. And we are called to see Christ in every single person we meet. So in a few moments, we're going to say some prayers for Hannah. In a few moments, we're going to renew our own baptismal covenant and remind ourselves what it means to be followers of Jesus. A difficult task, to be sure, but it's a task of remaining in covenant relationship with our God. It's a task of welcoming new people all the time. And so after we have this baptism and we share in the Eucharist together, we're going to depart from this place and we're all going to go our separate ways. But you're not going to be leaving the church. Because you'll find that the church is wherever you are and wherever you're encountering Christ. So my challenge to you this week is to find the church away from this building. So look at all the people you come across in your daily life and see Christ in them. Welcome Christ in them. And let them know that there is a love beyond imagination, a compassion without measure that exists for them. Whether or not they ever brighten the doors of our church. With the earlier service, I said whether or not they darken the doors of our church, but I had a parishioner come up to me and say, oh no, they never darken our doors. They brighten our doors. Because every person that walks through the door is an incarnation of the light of Christ. Every person you meet on the streets, in the grocery store, cutting you off on the highway, wherever you meet people, they are an incarnation of the light of Christ in this world. Find that light of Christ in them. Be the light of Christ that is in you to them, so that their light may shine even brighter. That's what the church is here for. The church is to be that place where anyone can come, whether they get the message or not. Where anyone can come and hear the good news. And be refueled to go out into this world that's so crazy and so hectic. And let the world know that there's something better. Hannah, in a few moments, you're going to be part of something so amazing. And I can't wait to see what you do with it. Let's welcome Hannah into the household of God. Let's support her as she grows in Christ. And let's set an example of what it's like to be Christ in the world. Amen.
Most important thing I say to any child, any adult being baptized, that I'd say in my mind to Prince George, some words that the Church of Scotland uses. For you, Jesus Christ came into the world. For you, he lived and showed God's love. For you, he suffered the darkness of Calvary and cried at the last, it is accomplished. For you, he triumphed over death and rose to new life. For you, he reigns at God's right hand. All this he did for you, though you do not know it yet.